And I like it because you can, like those audios, like you can replay them and they will go through like each diagnosis and kind of like give you pointers on how to remember things. So that's pretty much what I did. And I did not, so I had a little bit of time at the end. I went back through like my questions that I wasn't super sure about. And I just said, you know what? Do not change any answer. So even though like I looked at them, I told myself just don't change any answer. And I was thinking when I pushed submit, I was like, oh man, please just, I really did not think that I had it. So like when it said pass, I was like, wow, I can't believe I did it. But they don't give you, so it'll tell you on the screen pass or fail, but they're not going to give you a printout. You got to go back and log into the ASWB site to where it'll like give you the breakdown of what, how many you got right in each category and then like how many you got wrong. So it was a lot, but I think as long as you don't second guess yourself, I think that's what hinders a lot of people, because they are tricky questions. And that's just, that's that was my experience.
But really, Amanda, it was way more than that because tell everybody, I really am wanting you to encourage people. Tell them which try this was for you.
Oh God. So I tried a couple months ago and missed it by one question. And I was like, "Oh my God, like, geez, man." I was like, "I've spent all this money. I've studied all this time." Like, but at the same time, it was somewhat encouraging. You know what I mean? But like, it is easy to, just kind of be like, man, I don't think, for whatever reason, I can't pass this thing. But you really got to push through that and try and think of something different. You got to be able to say, look, yes, I've worked hard, I didn't get it. Okay. What is it that I can alter to try this again? You know, and it does suck because the test costs a lot of money. To me, that's a lot of money. And it don't feel good throwing money away, and then that feeling of you didn't pass. You feel like, damn, you know, uh, it just makes you feel like you're not good enough. But I don't think that's it. I think it's just a combination of your emotions are heightened. You get there, you're trying to go through all these questions. They're tricky. So you got to be able to you got to somehow build your confidence and not second guess what you know to be right. And it's easy to do, especially if you're a fast person in tests. I've always been a slow person, like like I've never had a whole lot of time at the end. But man, like the people that are good at tests and they're able to get done fast, I can see that being, easy to do. When you got time to go back through everything, kind of think, I don't know. But yeah, it was a challenge, but I think, you know, with that book, I think that book was helpful, and it is a lot of content that it gives you to study, but I didn't it didn't help me pass. And I did the practice test in the back of the Dawn Apgar book, and I passed the practice test. But when I took the real test, it didn't I wasn't able to pass. But I got a study partner, and I tried to, like, meet up with her for an hour on Saturdays, like, a month before the test. So, I think but now when I failed, I had been meeting up with her, but only, like, maybe twice. And then, like, when I took it again, they'll let you if because I only missed it by 1 question, you can reschedule to take the test in 30 days. So, that's what I did, and I asked her, to keep studying with me, but she was I think she ended up going camping or something, so, like, I was only able to meet up with her for, like, 2 Saturdays, um, and it was kinda difficult difficult because we couldn't never really like, we don't have that ingrained teacher mentality where, like, you gotta have somebody lay out a plan. We were both kinda like, "Well, what do we do? Where do we study?" But she was good in that, like, I told her about Brainscape, and so I made, like, these little flashcards, and so we would go over the flashcards that I made, and then she printed off the don't the Digglewowski thing, and so we did practice questions from that, and then, throughout the week, I would just spend, like, Monday through Friday, I would try to spend, like, an hour going through my flashcards, like, old-fashioned, handwritten things to try to, like, keep it ingrained in my memory, and so that's what I did, uh and I am so glad I do not have to think about it anymore, cause I was done with supervision, not last year, but the year before. So it's been a good minute.
Amanda, I'm curious because recently I heard that after you finish supervision, you need to have already contacted the board and been approved to take the test within the year after finishing supervision.
Really?
Was that's yeah, I'm wondering, did you apply to take the test within that first year of completing supervision, or was it within the second year?
No, okay, so I finished supervision, was it I think June or July of not last year, but the year before, so that would have been 2023. I took the test the first time December, maybe like 14th of 2023, and I missed it by like, uh, I don't know, maybe like 10 questions, 15 questions, something like that. So I was like, well, dang, and I had studied a lot that time. I just I don't know, like, my mind at the time, like, I had sold my house and I was moving, and so I didn't know if I should, like, contribute it to that, like, the stress of that and not really being able to put my whole mindset, into just passing that test. So, when I failed it the first time, I was like, "Well, dang, I don't know what's going on, but I need to come up with a new plan," and so I had, started a new job, I was mad at that book because I was like, "I don't know, the book didn't help me the first time," but I still kept it and I still went through it. I bought the for my master's, when I sat for my master's exam, I actually paid for that class, with Digglewowski. She came to Auburn, it was like a 2-day course, um, but I didn't buy the CDs. So I went online and I bought those CDs and I thought, well, maybe that'll help just hearing it, not just reading it. Um, so I did that. And then, like I started meeting up with my old coworker, Laura, and so, like, we would kinda challenge each other, and then like, that second time, I missed it by 1, so I felt better, but I was still kinda like, "Dang." Like, cause it makes your confidence you're kinda like, "Well, maybe this just ain't meant for me." Cause like, you're studying, but it's a matter of being able to apply it into scenarios. Um, so that's just basically what I did. And like, if I had like if there's nothing going on at work, I'll just go through those Brainscape uh online flashcards. And that was it.
I'm wondering, Amanda, you took it 3 times, and I'm hearing that you felt discouraged the first and second time. What made you keep pushing yourself to go ahead and take? Because we're hearing like you feel discouraged, you feel like you aren't good enough, you're feeling like it's not for you, but somehow you kept pushing and you went ahead and took it that third time. I'm wondering why, because some people give up, and so I'm curious.
For me, because I could never stop thinking about it. I mean, I don't know, like, if I would've not been able to pass, I don't know how many more times I would've tried, but, like, for me, like, it it was just a matter of, like, everything I want in life, you know? Like, it having that level licensure offers so many more opportunities, and, like, just the bad days at work, like, kinda put in the back of my mind too, do you wanna be stuck with this forever? Or do you wanna maybe try a different route in life? So, yeah, just, wanting to like, I've always wanted to schedule my time in a way that, I wanna help people that wanna help themselves. I want to, uh I wanna get paid for what I think I'm worth. I don't I don't wanna be talked down to, I don't wanna be belittled, um, and, I think a lot of that is and I want to feel good about what I do. I wanna work with a population that is willing to be challenged and wants to do better. So, for me, that's been a lot of it, is just keeping that in mind, and just to be my own boss. Like I've always been on time with things. I don't really need somebody standing over me. So,
I love that answer. Tiffany's asked a couple of questions in the chat, Amanda. She asked
mm.
one, and I think you answered it, but if you want to re-answer it, she said, "How long did you study?" And then she asked, "Did you study while you were in your last few months of supervision?"
I started studying, I was done. I bought that book uh the end of June in 2023. So, I started studying in June. I took the test in December. I went through that book, and I mean, I dissected that book. I highlighted everything I thought was important. I made a PowerPoint. I challenged myself. I put in everything I thought was important, key questions. Um, I would study on the weekends, and I would try to, like, carve out when I got off work and I got home, like, at least an hour to just go through everything. If I thought something was important, highlight it, and then once I was done and I took that practice test, I just went back and everything that I highlighted, I made a PowerPoint, and then I would just go through the PowerPoint. Um so I took kind of like a pause, after that December, and then I, I, it's hard. Like I kind of like on the weekends. Most of I feel like my main like applied time to it was kind of like I would say like between 7 and 8 at night. You know, But other than that, just here and there, like going through that brainscape stuff, that was never like a set routine. And then when Laura started studying with me, that was like just an hour on Saturdays. So that's just what I did.
Linda, hit the record late into your presentation, your talk. Can you show us and tell us what the name of the
Yeah.
final resource you used that had the audio?
Yeah. So Laura told me about this, and someone she was friends with on Facebook, I guess, said that it helped them, but it's called Social Work Exam Prep Overview, LCSW Clinical Level Exam, and it looks like this, and it's got a lot of information. It's got recordings, and it goes through all the diagnoses. It's got scenario questions. It's got like 3 or 4 um, practice exams. Uh, so, I I bought this a couple weeks. I didn't have that much time because I had already scheduled it because I missed it by one question, and then Laura was like, "Well, why don't you try this?" And I was like, "Well, dang, I only got a couple weeks, but all right, it wouldn't hurt." So I did, and I just, went through I listened to all those recordings. I listened to the recordings twice. Um and it to me it was a, a big help, and you can get through that a lot faster because you got somebody reading to you. It's not you have to sit down and read a book and analyze this information. You got somebody that's talking it through and breaking it down to you and relaying it into like real life, so that way you kind of get it better in your mind.
Did any of my high achievers find that book yet? The link to it? Tell us the name of it one more time, Amanda, so somebody can help me look
It
for it.
was, let's see, the LCSW exam prep clinical level exam. And it's, I guess, by the Theorist or Therapist Development Center.
Oh, okay. TDC. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And what I'm hearing you say, darling, is that's what you felt, even though because I'm thinking you had a lot of foundational things. You did uh, Dr. D's at Auburn for the LMSW, and she
Right.
kind of teaches you how to answer questions, but then you read and dissected the Don, thank you, Jackie, the Don Apgar book, all the way
Right.
to the point of creating a PowerPoint presentation, which
Yes.
we would love to see the PowerPoint presentation because I bet that is amazing.
Oh my God. It ended up being so many slides. Oh
We would,
Lord.
if you are willing to share it, would you share that with me so I
Yeah.
can share?
I can send it to
We
you.
will put that with this
Yeah.
video because I bet that is amazing. And then, but it also sounds like you got some bitterness towards that book.
I did because I was like, oh my God. Like I was so hyped up. Like I thought, and because I passed that practice test. So I was, and just I think it was just the time I spent, reading through all the stuff and then making that PowerPoint. I was like, what is wrong? You know, that's the hard part. You're like, well, what do I do? So yeah, but I gave that book to Laura. I was like, and I gave her the PowerPoint too. I said, "Look, if you want to dissect it any more than this, you go for it, but I don't need it anymore." So,
We would appreciate the PowerPoint. I'm gonna stay on you about getting that to me when we get off
yeah.
here today because we would
Okay.
appreciate it. But then you got the TDC thing and you feel like that's what pushed you over the edge, or when did you move in December 2023 and that's the high stress level you were experiencing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I was just like for me, like that's all I've ever wanted. Like that's what I've wanted the most is just pass that test and, be able to do my own thing. Uh, but, like, you still have all these other responsibilities. You can't just put yourself in a timeout and think, you know, okay, I'm just going to study, 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 study. And then, I'm going to take this test and then everything's going to be magic. And it just don't work that way. Not well, it didn't for me anyways. So I had to just say, okay, what what can you do differently? Like, you still got to work, you still got to be a mom, you know, you're going to have to figure out a different way to study cuz the way you've been studying ain't working. So I just had to step outside my comfort zone and ask for help. So I was like, well, who can I ask? Cuz like everybody that I went to school with, I really didn't stay close to. Or if I did stay close to them, this wasn't something they wanted to do. So the first girl I asked, she's failed the test a good bit and she just quit. She said, I don't ever want to take that test again. So I was like, well, dang. And then the only reason I thought about Laura is because when I was still at that agency, I told her, I said, you know what? Because like she was just now like starting supervision. I said, after I pass that test, Laura, you do not have to pay for this book. I will give it to you gladly. And I, I don't know. I was looking through it and I was like, you know what? I have not talked to them. And I told her I was going to give her this book and I hadn't even thought about it. So, like, I texted her and I was like, hey, are you done with supervision? She's like, yeah, I just finished. I asked the board if I could test, but they haven't given me approval. And I was like, well, what do you want to study? And she was like, well, I don't want to take the test till after summer's over because I'm doing all this stuff. And I was like, come on, you need to study because it's not going to be easy. And like her personality, she's not as bubbly as me. She's more like a black and white thinker. Um, but somehow I talked her into it and she was like, okay, we'll do Saturday mornings. But you got to come to my house. And I was like, okay, I'll come to your house at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's what I did. I think she came to my house like once. Um, but yeah, it was a little odd at first, especially when you're not used to, like, if you haven't seen somebody in a while, and you go to their house and then you just got to come up with a plan of, okay, which part of this are we going to study? So that takes a little bit of time. But she did really great. She went online and she found some like practice questions and we would go through the practice questions and she would like explain, well, remember ethics. Gotta remember safety first. Or, like this is why. So it was helpful.
I believe in getting a study partner. I think
Yes.
that I failed the LC the first time that I took it, and what was the big difference for me was I ended up in a study group with some other women and we met on a weekly basis, not for long, um, but I think it made a huge difference for me as well. So those of you who are thinking about it, maybe um, even asking the social workers in group me or in circle if they want to partner up or whatever, I think would be really good and helpful because I do believe in a study partner. And I mean, I love that you wanted this. Like it wasn't like just, because sometimes for me, my experience has been this is just for some people just another checkbox. Like I gotta get this because it's the next thing in the course of the trajectory I'm on. But for you to say it's something I've always wanted, and it made it really difficult for you to give up. It wasn't about your self worth. It was just something that you absolutely always wanted. And so being able to push through those 2 attempts and stick with it, I think is a really, really big deal. So, y'all don't give up on yourselves. Please don't. I failed it. There's a bunch of us who failed that thing, and nobody asked me, "Wait, did you pass it on the first try before they come into therapy?" You know what I mean? Or before they come into supervision with me. Nobody asked me that, but I failed it the first time too. So don't I hear you saying that one of the people you went to school with, she's given up, but I really want to encourage you guys, is y'all don't give up. Because I do think that, Amanda, you're right. Stress is one of the top, I mean, moving is one of the top stressors on the stress chart. And so the fact that you took it during the time when you were moving, that makes sense. And so when you weren't in a state of stress and you only felt it by 1 point, that's really telling to me. And I love that you're telling us that, and I think we all know this, or maybe if you didn't know this, there's a certain number, I think 5, y'all tell me what the right one is, 5 points or less or something. The board lets you take it over again within a 30-day period. What is it, Tiffany? Did, were you saying something? It's 10. Ah, I didn't know it was that. Okay. So 10 points or less, you can take it within a 30-day period. We know Tiara did that for those of you who came um, to her talk, and Amanda has done that. I think a couple other people have done that as well. I think I'd like that. Don't put it off. If you're within that window and you can go ahead and take it again within the 30 days, and I know it is an expensive test, but those $260, you're going to get that within a week of whatever work you end up doing as a clinical social worker. So that 260 is truly an investment um, in the trajectory of your career, and you won't even remember it once you're getting paid at the clinical level. Does anyone have any other questions or thoughts for Amanda about her experience?
So I don't have a question, but I have a comment because Amanda, it's really obvious you're really intelligent. So to hear that that personal like struggle of like life just getting in the way was so relatable and is like a huge push as I'm getting ready to graduate at the end of the month to remind me it's okay to be human and that life is going to happen. So I really want to thank you for coming and being so vulnerable and so honest.
Yeah, like y- you know, in life, like we put all these, like you think you got to be perfect, so like, but you got to remember, like, even though like you prepared, even though you read through the material, um, you can feel confident and feel like, okay, I'm prepared, but you're you're going into like the unknown. And they make it to where, they always have like these two questions, and you're like, I know it's one of them, but which one is it? And you've only got so much time, they're not going to give you all day to try to put this in your mind, like scenario wise. So, yeah, it's frustrating, but once you do it and it's done, there is absolutely no better feeling. Unless I guess you consider walking across the stage, like when you get your degree. But yeah, you just gotta. If you don't get it the first time, you show are not the first one. You just gotta, try to do something a little different, and go back and give it another try.
Oh, yeah, I thought I was on. I'm making bracelets, y'all. I have a thing I have to go to, so I was making bracelets, so I thought I was on mute. But Amanda, I love that you said you sure are not the first one. I love it because you're not gonna, we personalize this thing. That's where those emotions come from. I think for those of you who are listening to Renee, and or you can go back to Renee's, I put her recording in the Circle platform, but she was making it personal, and it's not a personal test. And that's where we get this. Am I good enough? Is this meant for me? Is this am I smart enough? All of that, because now we personalize this experience, and it's not personal. It's like what Amanda's saying. Okay, I didn't do it this time. How can I do something differently, take a different approach, have a different perspective? Because this thing is not personally attacking me and saying that I'm this um inadequate test taker, and we know it doesn't dictate the type of social worker you are at all. So not personalizing um, this experience detaches you from it so that you can just answer the questions the way you need to answer the questions. Any other thoughts? Any final words, Amanda?
No, I think, I would just say I don't know if you'll ever feel ready. Um, but I would just say, maybe give yourself at least a month and, at least an hour in the afternoons, and then, whatever you can cut out on the weekends if you can, maybe find a study partner. It would help you because you got somebody else's perspective on things, and so you're not just relying on your own. Um, and the as far as the material that you choose to study, there's a whole there's a whole lot you can choose. So you know, I think the more you study, the better. What you focus on, usually you can grow from that. You can increase that. And as long as you stay with it, and you're able to say, okay, I got this. I'm gonna do my best. We gonna do this thing and see what happens. Don't let it scare you. So that's what I suggest.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm gonna stop the recording here.